everyone, and now, after quite a few days of fun and fisting, I thought I'd give you a little bit of a rundown of how I rate Mr. Fist, because the thing is, it's not enough to just say where you think he'll fit into the meta, or how powerful you think he is, because it's very easy when a hero is new and exciting to get carried away and be like, oh my god, this is going to change everything, the entire world of Overwatch will terraform around them! Which we kind of had happen with Sombra and Orisa, only for them to be, well, wet blankets. I mean, Orisa especially was about as useful as her predecessor robots were at stopping, well, Doomfist. I also want to talk about, then, if Doomfist just works as a character, if his moveset is intuitive, if he is well designed. And as it turns out, yeah, he's oh, yeah, alright. So, firstly, his moves are really cool. Which I realize isn't going to blow anywhere. Guys, I've been thinking about it for quite a few days, but I've decided that his moves are actually kind of cool. And the reason for that is that they have this air of never before seen in Overwatch about them, despite technically being before seen. And the best way I can describe this is by contrasting it with Orisa. So with Orisa, she has her thrown barrier, which technically no one has a throw out barrier, but we have lots of barriers, and it just felt like, well, it's a barrier. She has her right-click orb, and we were like, well, it's just a single pulse of a Zarya roll. You know, it felt like she was just taking modified abilities of other heroes, and despite technically being a new way of using them, it just didn't feel that new and exciting, you know. Her ult is just AoE mercy boost, it feels like. There's nothing truly Orisa about her apart from the unstoppable, which was really cool and a nice new thing to see. Whereas Doomfist has that concoction pot of other mechanics, like Reinhardt's into a wall for extra damage, or the AoE smash in front of him after jumping, or even just jumping a short distance. But they come together in a way that really does make them feel unique. Hell, even the shotgun glove, despite being the next in a line of shotguns, actually feels like a completely different weapon to use than any of them, because of the way they've made it reload, because of the speed and the spread that it fires, and in fact the speed that it travels at in the air. And that is really important on a subliminal level. Despite you being able to point to different parts of Doomfist's skills and saying, well, that's like this hero's, the actual sum of the whole is much greater, and that is really awesome. And the other distinct highlight of him is that they've somehow managed to create a melee hero who has a gun. And that, I think, is a really difficult thing to do, and probably was one of the biggest challenges with designing this character, because let's be honest, you've got huge dude with giant gauntlet of power punching. To try and go, yeah, but he's gonna have a gun and be ranged, it makes people think, and rightly so, what? That's anticlimactic. I want to be punching things. I'm playing fucking Doomfist, not Doom occasional slap. So they had to come up with a solution to that, but it's hard not to just make Assault Reinhardt. So they've given him the shotgun that isn't terrible, but they've managed to make it very apparently intuitive that it is just horrendously less effective than proper, good, consistent uses of your punching abilities. And then they've made literally every other move he has involve using his fist, given them low cooldowns, so despite not having a primary fist punch attack, you do feel like you are constantly swinging, and that's a very impressive design balance that they've achieved here, actually making a melee character with a gun instead of a gun character with some melee moves, and it's a very important distinction to remember. And on that note, he does just feel visceral as all hell to play. The high pace, the low cooldowns, the high skill ceiling. There is so much tricky stuff you can do, and no one has really tapped into the potential yet, because on the BTR, You just face people who quit when they don't get Doomfist, and then 6 assault teams because nobody gives a fuck. So it's kind of hard to get a proper feel for him, but the type of stuff you can pull off is wonderful, especially with his ult. It's obviously the first time that mechanic is in Overwatch, certainly not a new mechanic in games like this with moves on heroes, but it's cool to see it implemented in this way, and it gives him an engagement tool unlike any other in the game, because you get very little warning, and it actually encourages very good awareness from the enemy team, because when you hear Meteor strike, you have to think, alright, if I was Doomfist, I see where my allies are, I see where the game is currently going, I see what we're currently trying to defend/attack, where would I land this ult to be effective? And you have to have that thought process in a few seconds and try and predict where that circle is landing so you can be ready and counter it. And very few moves have that almost calm before the storm. And the thing is, not only is that ultimate cool, it's very Doomfist. Because think about it, you hear Meteor strike echo across the battlefield, and you know Doomfist is coming. You don't know where, you don't know when, but you know Doomfist is coming soon. Every time he presses his ultimate, it's like going through a micro version of waiting for Doomfist to be released again with all the hype and theory. Look, that might be a stretch, but you see where I'm getting at, right? You know he's about to arrive in epic hero slam down fashion, but you don't know where, and you don't know precisely when unless you're timing it very well with the voice line, and you've got to try and predict that. I think that's a really cool analogy to draw, and I have to assume that someone at Blizzard did think about that, because it's very cool that you have that go on, and I love moves that make the enemy have to think in interesting ways, so it's exceptional that Doomfist does have that going for him. I love that. I think that's so good. And aside from that, actually playing as him, the combo level, it's so cool, because all of your moves can be used in multiple ways, and that's an important thing. When designing a hero, you give X move. If the only way to use X move is press on enemy and do damage, then it kind of gets boring. It's very easy to reach the maximum potential of that skill. You just choose right enemy and do damage to them. Whereas with Doomfist, everything is movement as well as damage and repositioning. So you've got to always make constant little mini decisions of, do I want to reposition? Do I want to reposition the enemy? Do I want to damage the enemy? Do I want to escape? Do I want to engage? And all 3 of his main abilities can do any of those things and more, and you have to constantly decide where each one is getting applied to at any one time. You can go all in on damage and full combo one guy, but then you're completely done for a while. You didn't allow for an escape or any other eventuality that might occur, so constantly having to decide which of the ridiculous array of usefulnesses for the moves that you want right now, it makes for a highly engaging hero. And because Doomfist is so inherently lore powerful, because you are jumping around, punching people, and being so fast and high skill cap, once you reach that skill cap, you will actually start to feel like, I am the Doomfist, as you completely destroy people. They've managed to make a balanced character that feels really powerful to play, and that's obviously a difficult feat, but he has that weight behind him. You can tell by playing him. God, imagine if I had 100 hours on Doomfist, I would be a boss, literally a boss battle in a normal game with no custom settings, and that's really awesome, because there are moments when you play him and pull off stuff that, whoa, it's, yeah, it's exciting, it really is. So in terms of character design, he's fantastic. Visually, he looks very much how we predicted to him. There's nothing too crazy about that. I actually think visually he's a little bit of a letdown. I think he could have a lot more going for him in terms of visual personality, because he is just generic muscly black dude with metal gauntlet. I feel like there needs to be something. The white stripes on his face to represent his culture and where he's from is nice, but I don't know, I feel like there could have been a little bit more in the the visual design of him, especially to represent his really interesting backstory and ethos of you've got to constantly fight to get stronger as humans. But that's a minor detail. In terms of how he plays and how his moves work, A+, it really is, from both him, his teammates, and his enemies. I also think, then, talking about how actually powerful within the game he is one of the highest skill cap heroes, and because of that, he has a lot of solo carrying potential. Getting really good at Doomfist and picking him in competitive is going to be a very viable way to carry your rank for yourself for a while. It really is. But that's on the individual level. In terms of a team level, are you going to be picking him? I mean, it's kind of difficult to say, because right now it's very popular to play things like Genji, Tracer, and Winston dive comp, and as annoying as that is to play against, you've got to answer the question, how does Doomfist help me do that better, or how does Doomfist help me stop that? And let's take Tracer and Genji. Would you sub in Doomfist for either of those two when you're going to be diving onto the enemy? I mean, potentially, but maybe not a definite, yeah, definitely we would, yeah, easily, because I don't know, I think he's not necessarily better than them for it, but then again, he is not supposed to be the leap in from the front hero, he's supposed to be the surprise and take you from the rear with his fist, so you've got to put that into consideration. That Doomfist, while might not fitting into a great sentence there, the current dive meta, he might very well be a key cornerstone in a next popular way of setting out your heroes and game strategy. I do think he actually helps counter it a little bit, just because he can really fight Tracer, Winston, and Genji, because actually this is another really cool thing. Doomfist is very good at killing Tracer, because you just basically need to connect your right click and she's gonna die unless she's miles away from a wall, and normally she's injured by at least 50 health anyways. You've got a very good chance of killing Tracer if you connect, but obviously she's hard to pin down. So that means you have to have very good timing and prediction skills with your right click. Hell, that's another thing. As a hero, he very much rewards learning enemy attack patterns and dealing with them appropriately. That is how you can play him the best. Get inside the mind of your opponent, know what they're gonna do, and then punch them for it. And you know what's cool about that? That's what he actually does, lore-wise. Like, in his video, he stood still, he's watching, he's looking at the movements of Genji, Tracer, and Winston that he's fighting. He's waiting for the right time, watching their movement patterns, and then striking with deadly efficiency. That's how he actually fights in the world of Overwatch, and they've designed his moveset to encourage you as the player playing Doomfist to fight like Doomfist would in this situation anyway. Still calm, observing, explosive power and movement back to safety, still calm, observing, and that is a wonderful blend of mechanics and lore that I just ever so much love seeing. And to extend on that, Doomfist beats Tracer by knowing where she's going to blink and grabbing her time manipulator off her. And that's kind of what you got to do in game. You've got to time her blinks and punch her in the face. So there's lovely parallels there as well. And the thing is, obviously, because Genji and Tracer are so squishy, you can just punch them to death. And obviously disrupting their movement with the Shockwave Dragon is very, very nice. But he's not necessarily a hard counter. But I do think he has potential on defense, just because he's very good at getting behind lines. And you can very easily break a defense by punching to death a few of the key players at the back, and he has incredible potential to get in, kill someone, and get out. Honestly, he is a far superior flanker to Reaper, but then again, Reaper is barely being played, so it's kind of difficult to be like, yeah, he's good because he's better than Reaper. I mean, when you look at the most played heroes, there's no one that Doomfist can kind of replace in terms of superiority, because obviously he can't be like Soldier, he can't be like any of the tanks, tanks, he can't be like any of the supports. I mean, honestly, maybe he could take Sombra's role, a little bit of disruption, a little bit of a sneaky surprise, potentially do that. I'm not sure. I'm really not. He does feel like right now in the current meta, there's nowhere to just slot him in. He very much would need to favor a different playstyle and a different team style, I think, because if you put him into a current team, it would feel like 5 people trying to do a thing, and then Doomfist just kind of sitting there being Doomfist. So, I don't know. I think as a hero, he is very competitively strong. But as a hero fitting into a team and a team goal, I think there's a lot more grey area there, and I think there's a lot more that needs working out with him. What I will say is that snipers really counter him, as does Pharah. Pharah for obvious reasons, but both Widowmaker and Hanzo have a really easy time just shooting him and killing him. I've noticed this a lot while playing him and playing against him as those characters. I mean, I can't really explain it because he shouldn't be especially susceptible, especially of how fast he is, but he's very easy to just poop and he's gone. I mean, granted, it doesn't help that he's got a really high hitbox, and in the downtime when all 3 of his abilities are on cooldown for those 2-3 seconds, he is effectively a sitting duck. Hell, if Sombra hacks him, he's just done. He is so hard reliable on his abilities because his shotgun glove just not good enough at the moment. It really isn't. But think about what I just said. They've designed a character that is really strong, so you're gonna play him. But because he's that strong, you're going to want counters, but those counters are very underplayed heroes, like Widow, like Hanzo. So if what they're trying to do happens here, they've injected a character that's going to make, air quotes, bad heroes get played more just because they're good at countering this good character. And that is a really elegant solution to balance and meta shifting. And I do think because of that, I can totally see a meta shift happen around Doomfist. And again, I preambled this with not wanting to be like, everything's gonna change, but I really think it could. I very much think you could have him, because honestly, talking about the dive, his ultimate is, well, the ultimate dive, and somewhat a literal one as well. Him just appearing and boom, as he lands, the rest of your team surges in. Yeah, that's going to be pretty damn good. I could see Doomfist, Tracer, Genji, Winston, a D.Va, and a support. I could see that as just a boom onto them, kill them dead, go for it type scenario. A high energy, high octane, sudden attack team that really benefits from Doomfist. But the thing is, conversely, when you are being dived upon, landing on the diving team as a Doomfist is also going to completely wreck their flow. So I do think he, again, has the potential to really shake things up, and that is really fantastic, just because of how good he is at suddenly appearing and turning the tide of battle. But yeah, that's kind of my initial thoughts, all I have to say on the character. I obviously could be wrong on a few points, but really, I very much like him. I think he is probably Roadhog level of I enjoy playing at him, and obviously that's rare to me, so I'm very pleased. I think he's very well designed, and I think if they tune him correctly, he is going to, by definition of him being that good, give a little bit of a meta shift, so that's fantastic. It might be one of the first new heroes to instantly get a high pick rate. So yeah, for now, my name has been Rage. Like if you enjoyed this, subscribe for more, and I'll see you next time. Oh, goodbye. You've been watching